sales is the most lucrative skill in the world, period. The problem is most sales advice out there today is outdated, cheesy, and can even keep you from getting the deals that can make all the difference in your career. This is the No BS Sales School, a podcast for entrepreneurs and salespeople who want to master the skill of selling without all the BS. Welcome to the No BS Sales School podcast. I'm your host, Walker McKay. Today, we're doing something we don't do very often. I'm bringing back a guest that we had about 8 months ago. It's my really good friend, Rob Napoli, whom I met through this podcast. And what we're going to talk about today is how to build a value-added network. Let me introduce you to Rob. Rob Napoli is an entrepreneur. He's a coach. He is a host of a podcast called The Bare Necessities, B-E-A-R. And if you can see him, you'll know where that name comes from. He's also the author of a new book called The Social Soul. So we're going to talk today about that book, how it works, and why you need to buy it and read it. Hey, Rob, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Walker. Glad to be here, and excited that you don't do this often and brought me back onto the show, so I appreciate that.
Almost nobody gets a second ride, so you're in, baby. I'm so glad. Rob, take 2 minutes, Rob, and tell us, and you have, let me tell you what I remember, right? Rob grew up in the Midwest somewhere like Iowa, wasn't it, Iowa?
I lived in Iowa. I went to school in Iowa, and I'm from Kansas City, Missouri, so I got to give love to the 816, but
there we go.
Close.
All right, so, and then because he was dating this girl who said, I'm going to Europe, and either you can come with me or you can go to hell. And you said, well, I think I'm going to go to Europe. And so he went, and what came of that, Rob became a consultant, and stop me if I'm wrong, Rob became a consultant helping companies in Europe figure out how to do business in the United States because of cultural differences and how do you connect. So, talk to me about that. What were some lessons that you learned there?
A lot. So the funny thing is my wife now. So the girl that I moved to Italy for is now my wife.
Yeah.
3 months into dating, she tells me this, like, move with me or we break up. And we were on a plane 9 months later. And I went to Italy to get a master's in multi-channel marketing. And prior to that, I'd spent 5 years in recruitment. Went to go back to get marketing. I had a degree in marketing. I really wanted to do more content and brand. And I was coaching professional American football while I was there for a team called the Milano Seamen. Well, it just so happens that one of the players for another team called the Parma Panthers had a startup company called Beast Technologies, and they hired me on as an intern, an intern into a full-time role as the head of content and brand, and I helped them grow and scale their business. And through that, I got to work with people, companies from all over the world. I've sold it to almost every country that I could legally sell into. From like the Iraqi military to China to Japan to Afghanistan to...
What were you selling?
It was a wearable device for athletes. And it was being used by sport teams. We sold to the Olympic ski team in Italy that won some Olympic medals. We sold to Atalanta soccer team, the football club, which is quite a large football club in Serie A. And so through this, though, I got to meet and engage and sell and build relationships. I was selling, but I was really the head of content and brand. So I was kind of doing both, right? I was building this brand. And through that experience, I got to come to the U.S. through an accelerator program. So I've been in this accelerator world. I've gone through a program. I've gone through that. I've pitched to investors and gotten kicked out of offices and feedback and helped raise all this stuff. And, when I came to New York, I ended up losing my job. We decided not to scale to the U.S. So they said, hey, we'd love to keep you on as an advisor, but we're going to stay in Central Europe and then just do everything from there versus like set up operations in the U.S. Fine. So I got back into recruiting for a large global corporate. Then I went and switched to a smaller startup where I got fired for the first time, which was the biggest lesson I ever learned.
You can't keep a job anywhere is what it sounds like to me.
Every place I've worked that's been like, 18, 24, 36 months, 5 years my first job. But when I left to go to Italy and after that experience, though, I realized that I hadn't found what I was passionate about. And so I was kind of jumping to like get experience. And when I got fired, I finally was like, you know what? Like the guy who fired me was like, Rob, I'm going to give you this severance and pay you out your commission and do all these things. Like he went above and beyond what he actually had to do as an employer to make sure that I was set up for success post him. And he goes, you need to start your own business. Like you need to go start your own business. Like that is what you're called to do. I can see it, do it. And I was like, fuck it, let's do it. So I did it. I started 2 of them. And I'm still operating both of them. One is Sales as a Service, which brings, it's a U.S. go-to-market entry company. The other is Rise Up Coaching, which is my training and development side. So one is we do outsourced sales development as a service, and one is the whole training and coaching aspect of it, covering the full market. So that's how I got here and finding my passion and developing into all these experiences, which led into like the network that I have today, which is why I went out to write about a book, right? Is building that network.
Yeah, let's talk, because you have done, Rob is an amazing guy. And I bet I've met 20 people who have introduced me to another 20 just because of Rob's connection. He is the ultimate connector, and has built a hell of a value-added network. So tell me, in your mind, what is a value-added network? What is that?
It's a great question. It sounds pretty, right? Value added. It's like all the buzzwords. So let's break that down. A value added network is 2 things. One, and I have 2 kind of methodologies on how my network is so strong. And I'm going to go how to build it first, then my favorite piece of advice that I give people. So, and how I've been able to like send connections like crazy. So when I first started networking, I've always been a good networker. When I worked in recruiting the first time, small town Iowa, like Des Moines, I built a new office. In person, I was good. And that was when LinkedIn was just getting started. I was leveraging social. I was the hashtag king. I was using all these things to really get to know people and connect with them on social. So that when I went in to sell with them, I'm like, I know that they like you and I know that they're a huge Hawkeye fan or they're a big golfer. Because I see them like on the golf course on their Instagram. So I'm going to talk about golf. I'm going to leverage that to be human, right? Yes. I started doing that when I was 21, 22, 23, my first jobs. And so value-added network, I used to be a taker for my network. I used to just network with anybody who wanted to connect with me, bring them into my network, and like, I have the biggest following, kind of the influencer idea. And it's like, that's not right. A value-added network is, I don't care if you have 100 followers, 1,000, or 5 million. Are those followers and the people you're following people that you can learn from, interact with you, can learn from you, can do business with? Those are my buckets, right? There has to be a exchange of value that I'm not just scrolling mindlessly for entertainment. I can learn from them. These are people I want to learn and talk to and connect with, jump on a podcast with, like go to their training course, they launch it. And that's what a value network is are the people in your network, is there an exchange of value? Is it not just following somebody to follow them, but you're actually interacting and engaging and vice versa? So that's the first part of it.
How do you build something like that?
Yeah, so I started out.
Let me stop for a second, Rob, because I've got 5,200 followers or something crazy on LinkedIn, and it used to be kind of a thing you brag about how many followers you have or how many connections you have, but it really can become a burden, overwhelming, or just completely ineffective.
It does, and I think at some point when you grow, you're going to have that quantity number, and that's a great thing. It's because you're giving so much value that people want to learn from you. Okay. The hard part is how do you engage with all 52,000 of those? And at some point, there's like a limit where we can't. But within your network, what I have is I call my brand ambassador list. And it is a spreadsheet that I just keep in Google Sheets. And it is the 100 people. It's the top 100 people in my network that are top of mind to me right now, that we're either partnering on something, we have some sort of agreement to like exchange, like they're just a badass dude like Walker, where if somebody comes into my network and asks for something, because if anyone hasn't, you should go check out my podcast, the first episode, The Bare Necessities, episode 1. I talk about who I want to be and what Rise Up is all about. And my brand and my community is I am the layover spot. I am the bridge across. I am where you go when you don't know where to go, and then I help you get to your final destination. I'm not trying to build a community to be someone's final destination. Again, I'm a connector. I'm a value-added networker where I know that there's other people that you need to be connecting with. And so that's what I have attracted to do. And so that brand ambassador list allows me to do that. And that's when if I need like a post bumped, or if I need someone to share some information, or I've got a big announcement coming up and I want some other people to talk about it, or I need to pass referrals off, or I need somebody to say, hey, I have somebody who needs help with sales coaching. They just need like one session, not a full program. Hey, Walker, would you do a 30-minute consultation to help them out? That's what my brand ambassador list. And that 100 gets refreshed every month. Like sometimes people fall off. Sometimes, those relationships change. And that's always helped me keep people top of mind. Now, 100 seems like a lot. So some people do 50. But I teach my entrepreneurs this, especially if you're starting a business. You should have those 100 people that you can call at any given time.
Yep. I love that. So how would somebody, so what you're looking at is who are those people, and I love this idea of givers versus takers, and I agree with you that the status quo is a taker, that being a giver takes a decision, takes a choice, and a giver is somebody that goes into a relationship seeing how can I add value, not how can I extract value. Mm-hmm. And so what I found is when two givers get together, they can make each other a hell of a lot of money and or help each other a ton, right? Whether it's directly in money or not. Yeah. So how do you begin to figure that list out of 100? I mean, did you go through LinkedIn? How'd you do that?
It's a great question. It's funny if you talk, and I just want to I know this is completely unrelated, but I think you talked about this book before, but the moment in my life when I realized that I needed to kind of change my mindset was the day that I read Go Giver, Sell More. Mm-hmm. Because I had read Spin Selling, I have read the Challenger Sale, I have done the Sandler stuff to an extent, a small piece of it, all the different sales methodologies. And I remember reading Go Giver, Sell More, and I was like, I've always been in a relationship guy. I was like, that was the moment that's like, give. And it changed my mindset. So start building this list. It's quite simple. First of all, who's your personal board of advisors? I've got about 5-10 people that are on my personal board of advisors. That
like it.
One of them is somebody who I think you know pretty well, Casey Jones.
Love her.
Yeah, so she's on it. And I just have those kind of 5-10 people that if I need something, I was like, hey, homie, I need to talk about something right now. I need somebody. She's going to answer. You're going to answer. Yeah. I think Brian Burkhart's going to answer. If I was like, Brian, I need something. Larry Long Jr., another dude that's always going to answer. Yep. James Buckley. These people in my network are those that I can just I know I can text them and be like, hey, I am stuck on a problem. And they'll be like, here's my calendar, or I'm free in 10 minutes, or give me a call. Yep. And they'll move mountains for you. And you need those people. So that's the easy part. My business partner, one of my best friends, obviously is going to be up there. A few of my number one clients that I've developed those relationships, some of my old professors, some of my old colleagues, right? Those that I know that are going to help me expand. And my top 100 list have people represented from 22 countries, right? Wow. And that's what matters to me. And so the accelerators I work for, all the people who run the accelerators, they're on that list. You'll start thinking okay, who in my network, if somebody came to me, and think about, this is a great question for you, Walker. You're a sales coach, right? And people, entrepreneurs, sellers, they come to you to learn about sales. And once they kind of get past some of their sales stuff, they start getting overcoming that fear. They have other questions, and they're like, Walker, who do you know that could help me with taking this and building a team? Or who do you know that can help me take this and turn this into a marketing campaign? And sometimes you could help, but you're probably going to have 5 people I might send to this person or that person or this person. Those are the people that should be on your list because they're top of mind for the questions that you get asked the most.
Excellent. So if somebody wants to do that themselves, that's exactly what it is, right? You're bringing the whole value that you have plus your whole network. And so that's what people need to be thinking about in their business. Now, it doesn't have to, is it just business contacts? Is that what it is, your brand ambassadors, or is it other people? Is it other, for personal stuff too?
It's personal stuff too. It's
because you're your brand. Because you're your brand.
Yeah, but we all are a brand in our own way. Whether you're an employee, consultant, whatever. In the fact that you could be an SDR at IBM, right? Yep. So you're going to know people at IBM and some of your clients. Think about this: when you close your first deal as an SDR, it passes through AA and that whole big chain and close. You started that. And you'll probably keep that relationship with the person that you kind of started. And you're never going to forget that person. There's something special about that first win and that first kind of client connection. And that becomes a person. And what about the person you grabbed coffee with, the mentor, or the professor who helped get you that job? Right? Like any part of your life, there's going to be personal, professional people that go into that kind of bucket. And and this is how, and when you do that right, think about people, like names I've mentioned, Casey, Brian, you, Larry Long Jr., James Buckley. Think of how big their networks are. Probably bigger than mine, right?
Maybe.
And think about all the value that those tentacles grab when you start having those connections tied together.
Yeah.
And, it's, even you and I both know Colin Mitchell from Salescast, right? And the community that they've built. And the tentacles that have crossed over there, like those guys as well. Like, this is where all those things start to tie together. This is where that value comes in, is that the value is not always that Rob's providing the most content with value. It's not that I'm a content poster and posting a bunch of shit. It's that I engage with others and say, hey, you know what? If you don't know who Walker McKay is, let me make an intro, because Walker might be able to be the guy to help you. Or Jordana might be the person to help you. Or Casey might be the person to help you. And because I'm engaging in the communities I serve and helping connect those dots, it starts to create just circles of value that open up doors that you'll never thought possible. And that can be done at any level, at any job, whether you're an accountant, a marketer, operations, frontline, behind the scenes, it doesn't matter. You can drive value, because every stage of your life and every job you work, you're creating connections, answering questions, and providing value and service to somebody.
One of the things you mentioned, and I love that. And one of the things you mentioned earlier, which is great, is that you are often clearing out your connections. I'm assuming on LinkedIn and maybe other networks as well.
Yeah,
tell me your thoughts around that.
Yeah, all my networks I've purged. I've taught this to a lot of people, because the question comes to quality or quantity, right? And a lot of us think, let's just have quantity. And this is what I did first. Let's just get as many people. And I'm going to take a step back, because when I started my businesses, my two businesses, I accepted anybody and everybody. I was connecting with everybody because I wasn't 100% sure where our ICP was going to be. We're still defining that. We're still defining our customer journey. Yeah. So I needed
ideal client profile, client profile, right? Okay.
Yeah.
ICP,
so
got it.
We still needed to dig those out. And, I had a huge network from being a recruiter, and I was realizing that people in my network only wanted to take from me because I was posting jobs. Well, they're no longer of value, and they're just coming up in my feed and causing noise. And so I was like, okay, I have way too much here. And I was like, I'm going to go through, and this is time consuming. It's painstaking. But I was like, I need to get rid of people. If they don't have a profile picture, if I don't remember them in any way, if they don't fit my ICP, if they don't fit something I want to learn from, I just need to start removing. I got up to 8,000 connections, cleared out down to 5,000. Now I'm back up to 8,000. But it's that 8,000 is much more engaged. It's much more the right people, the right things.
Yep.
I'm much more in tune with that. But I've done that on LinkedIn, Instagram, even Facebook. Because there's also Twitter. There's a lot of also toxicity. I get rid of toxic people. I can't stand it. I can't stand looking through my feed and just seeing all the toxicity of people stealing content and all that shit. We'll talk about content creation engagement later. But I got rid of toxicity. And when I did that, my network improved. The value of my conversations improved. The dynamics of what I was doing on all my social platforms started to grow. Right? And I have a great question for you. And this is something, because you talk about, you have 52,000 followers on LinkedIn.
No, it's 5,200. It's not 52,000. Okay. Hell 5,200. No.
5,200 followers on LinkedIn. Right? And connections. Do you accept connections with a note? Or will you accept connections without a note? How do you, when somebody looks to connect with you, say on LinkedIn, how do you decide if you accept that connection or not?
It's a good question, and that has evolved over time. Lately, it's why is this person want to link with me? I'll often email back and say, haven't met. Tell me why we should connect, which puts some people off, which is fine. I have stopped. What I've found is there are a lot of people that have seen that I'm a coach, and they link with me to sell me shit.
Yep.
And so I get a link request, and then within 24 hours, it's hey, can we have a conversation about this? And I've learned to not accept those. I'm not looking for that right now. So I want there to be an equal, mutual give and take there. Is that the way you look at it as well?
It is. And so I don't care if there's a note or not. people will get on the fence.
You don't care if they're what? You don't care if
there's
they're
a note. If there's a note, like they send me a note or why. Because there's a big debate on LinkedIn, like, do you send a note, not send a note? If you're a new grad, if you're somebody early in your career, you probably need to send a note because you don't have, like, a full profile to back it up. But, like, if Walker sent me a connection request, we didn't know each other, but I saw that you were, like, a coach, you're doing all these cool things, I'm like, you know what? He has a great headline, profile pics optimized, got his About Me section. I understand exactly what he does based on his LinkedIn profile. Mm-hmm. He's probably connecting because there's probably some exchange of value because I work as a coach in entrepreneurship with a focus on sales and marketing. He's a sales coach. Like, I'm sure there's probably something we can learn from each other. So I wouldn't care if there's a note or not. Right?
Okay.
I could tell by people's headlines if they're going to sell me or not. And I'll sometimes add people and give them a chance because, like, if they put a note in there, it pops up as a message on your desktop and I'll say, hey, thanks for connecting. I'll open the door for them to start a conversation. If they hit me with a pitch, I immediately delete them. Sometimes I'll go back and, like, hey, like, sometimes I'll even go back and help some people. I'll be like, hey, like, I connected with you. I responded to your message. Like, I appreciate having a network. I think I could learn something from your network. But the fact that we haven't even had a conversation and you're already pitching me on business, I don't like that. It's not a good look for you. I mean, that may work for other clients, but I'm not going to do business with you just because of that, unless you convince me otherwise and build a relationship first and talking about some of the content and things that you think make sense. It just depends on how much time I have.
I think what you're saying, right, is don't go acting like a damn salesperson when you meet somebody. Be
100%.
Freaking human. Nobody wants to be tackled by a sales guy they don't know.
100%. And funny enough, right, so the title of my book is called The Social Soul. And when I started working on this book, it was 2018. I was actually working with a publisher, not the publisher. I'm going with a different publisher, and they're like, let's call it the social seller. And I remember I went with it to, like, help build some stuff out and kind of see where this process went. But I remember thinking, I hate this. I don't like the idea of social seller. I went to Prague, Czech Republic in 2019 and spoke on stage at the Web Expo 2019. And I had 125 people in the room. I was giving this workshop on how to use social tools, LinkedIn, Instagram stuff, and how to create value-added networks and create relationships, and then eventually use that to, like, drive business. And I remember walking out of there thinking, you know what? The key for many of these folks is not social selling because, like, there's developers in the room. How do developers sell? Well, it's really about engaging with the communities that you serve, engaging and connecting with and having real conversations with people across social, and that opens so many doors for business opportunities, networking, jobs, learning, whatever it is. All these different things happen when you engage. And so I remember thinking it's not a lot about being a salesperson, it's about being an engager. And being an engager means driving the value, being human, as you were saying. And that was something that really stuck out to me back then. And that's why I just couldn't call the book The Social Seller. And it was all about the social soul, who you are authentically online, being a real human and showing who you are in a digital age where we try to show our best self and only our best self because we live in an influencer culture. We don't need more influencers. It's overdone. It's gone and dead. Like, we need real people being authentically human because when you're authentically human, you create real relationships. And that's what being online is all about these days.
Right. So it's funny. I think as you were saying that, one of the things we talk about with my clients with prospecting is what we're trying to do with prospecting is not necessarily sell. And that sounds funny to people that don't understand the context of that, but it's not to sell, but to build context and familiarity. So when the time is right, then they know who they're talking to and why. And we know who we're talking to and why.
And I love this part that you bring that up because what you talk about building context, right? Especially, unless you're IBM or Nike or Apple, right, and have a big brand name, most people don't fucking know who you are, who your company is. So when you prospect them and say, hey, we can help reduce time and money, why are those the worst two unique selling propositions in the world? Because you could probably save people time, but everyone says this. And at some point, you're not going to save the money because you're going to probably try to increase your prices as you grow. So stop using those. What do you really, those are byproducts of what you're really doing. So you need to provide context first. Give them some value, educate, right? All these things need to happen at first because no one knows who you are. And what we just think that, oh, we're cool. Like, people are going to know us. No one knows who Rob Napoli is. Come on. Like, maybe a few people.
Do now, I promise you that.
But you get my point. I love this idea of context because so many times, this is why I talk about engagement all the time. Engagement provides context, right? When you engage and it's like, oh, Walker posted this amazing thing. And I go, hey, Walker, thanks for sharing. My big takeaway was this. What do you think about this approach? Well, one, my face, my headline, my name is going to be on Walker's thread and people are talking about it. Walker can then engage. So now I have a dialogue started with Walker. Now I can reach out to Walker. Hey, Walker, thanks for responding to my comment. I would love to chat with you further about this. Like, that was really interesting. I know that you gave me a written answer, but that's probably only, scratching the surface. Can I grab 15 minutes of your time to go deeper on this? I'm not selling him at any point right now. He could be my buyer, but we're going down this whole deep. And then Walker and I have a relationship. And then Walker's like, well, Rob, what do you do? Well, actually, I sell this solution. Like, if you know of anybody or whatever, he was like, well, actually, I'm looking for that. Holy shit. Mm-hmm. How organic that happened. And what are the likelihood that that's going to close over like, hey, Walker, buy my product. Right.
Hey, we've got this cool thing that'll save you time and money. You don't know me, but we should talk.
Yeah.
Man, who the hell is not really busy right now? I am freaking busy, right? I don't need to talk to more people and by the way, if I'm going to be a prospect, how about let me know up front?
Yeah. Context is everything. Conversation is everything. Engagement is everything. And, going back to this idea of value-added networks, right? So we're talking about all these things, and these are how you become an engager and engage to create value-added networks. I kind of want to flip it back on you. You have a network, right? And you've created the No BS Sales School. You've got this really cool community that you've built. Why did you build a community, and what do you think are the biggest values and takeaways that the people that come to the No BS Sales School get out of it every day?
So why did I build a network? Because I feel like people want community. I desperately want community of like-minded people. That was really important to me, and I knew that one way I could engage with people was to share what it was that I knew, and I believe that sales has changed, and a lot of salespeople haven't changed.
Yeah.
And I believe in transformation, and the more people that I can engage with, that I can share information, and they can be transformed as I am transformed, the better things are going to be for them. Yeah. And your second question was, how do I engage with them?
No. What is the value that the people that are in your community, what is the big value they get a part of being part of the No BS Sales School? Like, what's the value that they get by coming into this community of like-minded people?
Yeah. So the value that they get is, number one, it's a network of people that can help them. Number two, there's information about how they go into the world to sell, and to be more human about it, not to be some cheesy, pushy salesperson, and to actually build confidence in people that you really can just go be your authentic self, that you can be human and not be some, I keep going back to it, cheesy, pushy, talk too much, be too loud, backslapping Charlie, which I think is the worst way to go into sales.
Yeah, and that's, I love Boiler Room and some of those old movies, right? ABC, when you think about Glengarry Glen Ross.
Yeah.
And while there's a lot of lessons, I still watch those and be like, you get kind of excited, you get the chills, but like, you're also like, wow, like that's so outdated. Like, I'm glad we've moved away from that. And so, we grew up in that era and have learned from some of that stuff. I remember when I got my first job in recruitment, my training videos from 1985 on how to be a recruiter. I was born in 87, so that was where I learned sales. And I like this evolution of sales, but one of the things that I think, and I've come to a couple of your sessions, right? So for the listeners out there, I've been in a few of the rooms of the No BS Sales School. And what I think the big value that people get out of is that when you go into that room, you can't hide. You can't passively engage. You have to actively engage. And you're going to be forced to pitch your product. You're going to be asked to do these things because this is a safe space for you to practice with a group of like-minded individuals who are going to be there to support and make you better, so that when you go into the real world, you're better prepared to execute and be authentically you. And that is the value of this network and what you've created. And if none of you have heard Walker guest on other podcasts, you should go listen to his podcast with Brian Burkhardt on Square Stories and listen to the most recent one he did with Sarah Verhoof. And they have a great conversation about some of the things that plague the sales culture and sales world. And Walker's out there having real conversations and not afraid to get deep on things, some of his own biases, and really bring that to the forefront and talk about that. Because what people don't know is Walker did sales for tons of years in different methodologies, and he's built his own. Like, I saw all that wrong. I used to train all that. I want to flip the script. And he's been making that a business for 7, 8 years. And that's what it's meaning. So when I talk about value add community, when you think about what Walker's built at No BS Sales School, that's value add. That's a community that people come and get impact, right? And we can all of our journeys are impressive because they're ours. We're the only one that walk them, right? And so wherever you come from, like, it doesn't matter. We need to be the impact and change we want to see. We can't change the world, but we can make a small impact in the way that we bring to life our lessons and help create safe spaces for people to practice. And that's like, when you look at all that, that's about building value-added communities. That's what building your network of brand ambassadors is all about. It's about why you have these people into it. And when you do that and you create that from a full level, you start really mastering both a personal and professional brand with authenticity and intentionality that creates this true, authentic you. And that's why I was like, it's not the social seller, it's the social soul. It's who you are as a person and how you put that out into the world in a day and age where we're hyper-connected. We can't shy away. We can't be like, oh, yeah, we're going to be back in person soon. Here's my physical business card. Let's have a real relationship. No, we connect online. I've never met Walker in person besides on a screen. But we've gotten to know each other last year and done a lot of passing of connections and opportunities and all these great things. And that's what it means to build a value-added network and a value-added community.
Rob, thank you so much. Yeah, Rob, thank you so much. This has been a really great episode. No BS Sales School. I hope you were taking, No BS Sales Team, I hope you were taking notes. Rob, how would somebody get in touch? Well, first of all, how would they find you, get in touch with you? And then number two, where can they sign up to get a copy of your book?
Yes. So the book launches January 18th. It's out for pre-sale now on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. Just search The Social Soul, Robert Napoli, and you'll either find it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. The best way to find me, I'll give you the link. My Beacons page, beacons.page/Rob Napoli. And that has links to everywhere. As my Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn. I'm Rob Napoli on LinkedIn. I've got a yellow background and the big man bun and beard. You can't miss it. But I'll make sure to give you those so you can drop them in the show notes. But
great.
For anyone out there that has more questions or would like to learn more, want to connect with me, drop me a note. Let me know why you want to connect. Follow me, add me, whatever. If you got questions, send me a note. I'm always going to answer. Just let me know where you heard me from. And, the book, I'm excited about it. I made it. It's 99 pages. It's perfectly imperfect. It's meant to be a short read, packed with value. And I'm excited that it's done. It was a long journey from 2018 to January 2022, and ups and downs with writing it and publishers and all that. So I'm excited for it to be out, my first piece, and hope it provides value to people who read it. And just it's a moment that I've couldn't believe finally come to fruition of writing a book. Yeah. So
really great. No BS Sales Team, reach out to Rob on the social channels. There'll be links in the show notes where you can find him. Please, I ask you a favor. Please subscribe to this podcast. Give us 5 stars. It really, really does make a difference. We are already in the top 2.5% of podcasts in our category of sales, which is I'm freaking excited about.
That's amazing.
Isn't that cool? So please share this if somebody needs to hear it. Reach out to Rob, and if I can help, if you want to talk to me about working with you or your team, feel free to reach out to me, walker@walkermckay.com. Rob Napoli, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm excited about your book launch. I've got one of your books on order, and I will look forward to continuing trying to add value to you as you have certainly done for me.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.